Hello, my name's Alfonso, and I'm back again to talk about J.P. Moreland, Loving Your God with All Your Mind. I'm going to be answering three questions that refer to chapters 4 and 5 in kind of explaining my answers using some of the principles that were talked about in the chapter. Once again, just very briefly, this is for class, so don't expect any uploading regularly. Okay, so in chapter 4, J.P. Moreland talks about kind of like these people that aren't very motivated. They're very apathetic towards the Christian faith. And he calls these people like empty shelf, meaning that they're all there as a person except their mind is kind of has an empty shelf, and they're just not, they're very apathetic, they're not very motivated to truly learn about the Christian faith. So the first question I'm going to be answering is, how has society produced this empty shelf? So I think society has produced this empty shelf because, I mean, you could see in a lot, you can see a lot of this in younger people. I mean, I myself am 23, so I would probably be considered a part of this young people crowd. But I mean, like, everybody who's young has a phone, access to internet, and has no reason to truly just go out and be motivated and go out and do things. Everything's handed to them in this little small, 4-inch by 6-inch device, and they're attached to it. They're glued to it. It's always on them. There's no reason for them to get off of it in their mind, because they look at that as the source of everything. They can find all their answers, all their help from it. So I think technology has taken over us. I think technology is good, but I think in a lot of society, technology has caused us to be very apathetic towards the Christian faith. We've become lazy and rely too much on technology rather than relying on our minds, which is kind of what relying on our minds is kind of what J.P. Moreland is getting at. And I've noticed this a little bit even in my own life, so I can attest to that. Technology is one reason that society produced this, and also this idea that, like, you're right and I'm right, even though we may disagree. We're both right and it doesn't matter. So this idea of encouraging these kind of like self-defeating ideas, which is like what another thing that J.P. Moreland talks about, encouraging these like self-defeating ideas, like, what's true for you is true for you, and what's true for me is true for me. And if both of our truths, contradict each other, then that's not a true statement, you know. Or he gives more examples, some other examples that aren't in the book, or just like these self-defeating ideas, like, I can't speak a word in English, stuff like that. So moving on to question number 2, how does the empty shelf threaten the mission of the church? How does the empty shelf threaten the mission of the church? I think it affects it greatly, because you'll just see people that just are regular churchgoers that really aren't going out of their way to be a part of the mission. The church can have a mission, but if it doesn't have people backing that up, people leading from the front, then it's not going to do anything with its mission. I think all churches have a mission, but I think it's just this empty shelf mindset is going to create a culture of people who just aren't going to do anything. They're not going to go home and challenge themselves. I mean, it's just going to it's going to create this culture of people who just go there for fun, or they go there for friends. They go there to feel a part of something. So I think this empty shelf mindset is really affecting the congregation. I think it is also affecting pastors too, because you see a lot of pastors that produce messages and they preach sermons that that just touch people's feelings. They're not going out of their way to challenge people in any kind of way. And I'm not saying all pastors are like that. I would never want to speak in a generalized term and throw all of them in one bucket, but I mean, it's true. You can look up a lot of sermons online now and just attest to that. So I think that's how it's affecting the mission of the church. I mean, we're not going to be able to reach people for Christ that way if we're have this empty shelf mindset and we're just not participating in anything. And it's so weird, the circumstances that you get, the opportunities that you get just by so many different attending different groups and going to different community activities, the different opportunities you'll have to witness to somebody. But if you have this empty shelf mindset and you're very apathetic in your faith, then you're not gonna be motivated to do anything. You're not gonna, or maybe you're overworking yourself, and that, I know that was a point that he made in the chapter 2, which I thought was interesting as well. So and then the last question I'm answering is, how can the local church minister to people who exhibit these qualities? So how can the local church minister to people who exhibit these qualities? They can have classes. They can encourage people to do apologetics, which is J.P. Moreland mentions this a lot, which I'm very happy, because I think apologetics is very important, because I don't think it's worth believing in something if you don't have a reason to believe in something. So they can hold classes. They can start doing sermons that are challenging people. I think a lot of times, so often, that pastors are almost afraid to preach sermons that challenge people because they have a big congregation. I know that's going to cut deep and cause some controversy with a lot of people. I know, like, when you say things like that, people are like, how dare you say that? But I mean, it's true. Like, I don't see a lot of sermons now that really challenge people. And I mean, I haven't been to every church in America, but just locally, what I'm noticing is just a lot of sermons that don't. And I know that offends people when you say things like that, but it's true. We got to be able to take criticism and allow ourselves to be challenged. J.P. Moreland talks about hanging out with people or reading articles that are against your opinion to try to challenge yourself and to grow your mind. I mean, I think those are qualities that are mentioned in these chapters are so important to developing your mind and to growing yourself intellectually, so that you can truly have meaningful conversations. So that's all I got for this week. Maybe more to come. Who knows?